Hi, everyone. I'm so excited for our very first Copy Talk podcast. We have with us today Ronnie Deese, a member of OAA.
Thanks, LaDonna. Glad to be here.
Can you go ahead and share us a little bit of history so our audience can get to know you?
Sure. I worked, my degrees and my training are in as a journalist, and I worked in that industry for about a decade after college, and just had a dream and a vision to own my own business at some point and work for myself. And I had some different ideas about how to do that. But I, uh, Insurance was really not the thing that I thought I would do. Sales is not the thing that I thought I would do. But here I am. I just got to the point where I saw that I wasn't my potential for income, where I was at was limited, especially without moving to another part of the country, which I wasn't interested in doing at that point. One day I was sitting, well, actually, it started with I had a bad experience with trying to buy uh, property and casualty insurance online. I called Nationwide Insurance actually, and I was in Oklahoma at the time, thinking I was buying insurance from a local agent, and then I found out that I wasn't. I was actually buying it from a call center, and so I didn't expect that because I thought Nationwide had local agents because that's how it was in Arkansas, where I'd been. And so I had all that. I just had a really bad experience with that, talking to a different person every time I called, never being able to get anything taken care of. And so I ended up at a local agent's office to just go get some new insurance, and started to talk to that agent and looked around at what that agent was doing. And I just decided, you know what, I could do this. I could. He was the first one who actually explained to me what my insurance was for and what it wasn't for, and the different parts of it. And no one had ever done that before. I just thought, this is something that I could do, and this, doesn't have the overhead and some of the other expenses that another business might have. So I got to thinking that it was something that I wanted to try.
So that's kind of what got you started into insurance then?
Right, right. Um, I started to look, and I saw, some recruiters for some captives, and talked to them, and ended up spending 14 years as a captive agent. And now I've I've been independent and with OAA for about 4.5 years, so 18 and a half years total in the industry.
Wow. So what was some things that happened at your captive agency that made you start to look to go independent?
Well, I grew for a while. It took me a while to figure out the business, and it was up and down, and finally got it going as a captive agent, and at least got to a point where I felt comfortable with where I was at. And then I grew some more, went through a good period of growth, but then the company became uncompetitive, and it became very difficult to grow or even just to maintain where I was at. So I started to branch into some other things. Big thing that I started to do to try to, because I wanted to continue to grow, and just the captive agency, I was really handcuffed. I couldn't grow anymore on the P&C side with them. So I started looking into Medicare. I had a lot of older clientele who were always asking me about Medicare. And so I decided that maybe that was something I needed to try to offer. So I was able to grow my last few years as a captive by expanding into Medicare. And In the back of my mind, I was thinking that I would look to leave my captive and become independent at some point. Um, and then one day, the my captive company sent someone from the company headquarters or from management anyway to come tell me that they thought they would like to replace me. And so that I was really taken aback by that, and I was confused by that. But I was in the end that ended up being a great thing. Honestly, the best thing that ever happened in my career was to leave the captive agency and to become independent.
So about how many PIPs did you have in your captive agency?
So the way that the captive agency counted policies in force was a little different. So I'm just used to their terminology, and which is they would count an auto policy. They would count however many autos were in that policy as a policy. So that makes it a little different. But anyway, just going by the way they figured it, I had about 1,200 PIF when I left there. And I've been really stuck at that level for several years. And just actually, that number had probably decreased by a few, not many, but a few. Just was unable to grow. Of course, their premiums we were taking large rate hikes about 3-4 years in a row. So my income actually went up a little bit in those last few years, but it was still frustrating to see so many people go out the back door because I just and not be able to add new clients. It's really frustrating. It's just sort of like banging your head against a wall when you're in that situation.
Well, how much was that premium dollars and then revenue for you at your captive agency?
Well, so like I said, the last few years, even though I was losing a few policies because of rate increases, my income was growing a little bit. But the company had been discussing lowering commissions for some time, and actually, right before I left, they had announced that they were going to lower commissions substantially on auto and also in home. And so, again, it was a really good time to be leaving.
So how long did it take you once you left your captive to become independent to replace the income that's to grow in your captive agency?
Yeah, well, so 14 years at the captive, but when I was going to leave, I started thinking about making some plans and trying to be realistic about how long I thought that might take so that I could plan for it. And I felt like that I could do it within 4 to 5 years. And really, so 40 years was kind of my goal when I left. That I felt like I could, I knew how to build an agency because I'd done it once before. And the first time I did it, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just learning it. So this time I knew what to expect. I knew what to do. I knew how to do it. So I felt like I could do it within 4 years, and that was my goal. But some things that well, to answer your question, so about 9 months actually. About in the ninth, I believe it's the ninth month that I was gone. I looked at what I made that month, and I compared it to what I'd made 12 months earlier, and it was more. And I never looked back from that. So about 9 months, and that was I was going to say, fear of failure is a good motivator. You question yourself when someone tells you that that you're not good enough, or that they think they got somebody better, and they put someone in across the street to, you think that you own your business when you're a captive, but you don't own it. They can take it from you anytime they want to, because they own it. You don't own it. So, to see someone going across the street, who is replacing you, that's a good motivator. And just, of course I had bills to pay and a mortgage and a family to take care of. And so, honestly, I worked harder than I had ever worked in my life in the first year or two, couple years anyway, when I left the captive agency. So, I never expected to be able to do it that quickly, and I was amazed that I was able to do it that quickly.
I know when we first started talking, we were talking about doing a kind of different deal with us. We kind of have a commercial opportunity, and then we held off. And then once it was a good time for you to move over into the independent side, you did so. But I know that you weren't just talking to us, you were talking to several other networks. And I remember that we had already kind of reviewed our agreement and everything else. And then you were also speaking with the other organization. And I came by, I had a hunch to just come by and see you that morning, check in to see how things were going. And you let me know that you were looking to sign up with that other network. They were going to be sending the contract over to you by noon that day. And so I just let you know that I'll be happy to help you any way in the future that I could. Didn't know that the future was going to be that afternoon necessarily. So you kind of want to fill us in on
Yeah,
what the difference was there that made you go ahead and sign up with OAA.
sure. So, I wasn't really, like I said, I thought about going independent several times, but I really never looked into it. And so when I saw that the handwriting was on the wall that I was most likely going to be leaving my captive agency, whether it was my choice or theirs, it looked like the trust had been destroyed there that I had with them. So I began to scramble around and research and try to figure out how I was going to do this and whether I even wanted to continue in PNC or not. I could see that I could grow my Medicare business, and also I did securities, and so that's one where there's never a non-compete with securities. People can take their money that they have invested and take it anywhere they want to. So I knew that I could do Medicare and I could do securities. I wouldn't have a non-compete, and I'd consider just doing that. But then I began to look at the PNC, and I felt like it wouldn't be wise to just walk away from it, despite the threats from my captive company that I should never try to do PNC again, and they would come after me and this and that. So I began to think about it, and I decided I would at some point at least do PNC again, and I thought that I would just do it on my own, get a few contracts on my own. But I did call several aggregators and talk to several different people, and so I identified. Well, I would say OAA is really the only one that actively, came to see me to really explain what they could do for me. The others were just all over the phone, and even if I asked them to send someone to talk to me, they weren't willing to do that. But the one that I had decided that I wanted to use, which I never met with them in person, and I was ready to sign a contract with them. But then when I received the contract and I thought I understood everything, and I began to look at the contract, there were things in the contract that they hadn't explained to me that I just didn't understand. And so I I didn't feel good about that, so I backed out of that contract, never signed it. And then, as you said, you came by that same day, and so I began to talk to OAA again, and eventually signed with OAA.
Right. So we're really happy to have you. You've been a great client. We're very grateful to have you as an ISM. So we talked about several different reasons why you've become independent. Now, kind of going over into our services, what education has OAA provided you with your growth coaching that you've liked the most, that you've gotten the most benefit out of?
Well, the main thing was just being able to get the contracts and being able to understand the agency management system, which is something that I never really had a big need for. Probably could have used it in my captive agency, but since most everything was through the captive carrier, um, I never had one. So being able to get the agency management system, and also that came with a website, which was critical to becoming independent, was to have a website that um, I could modify and make it fit what my agency was going to be about, and be able to showcase what I wanted to in that website. And then having that tied in with my agency management system, and then being able to get the contracting. I mean, those are the things that OAA helped me with. And so, um, I think back, well, I could have done it on my own, sure, but my agency would not be the size that it is today, I don't believe, because being able to have all those contracts and being able to place business with find a fit for pretty much any business that I want to write is a big thing.
As you're looking forward with your agency, how do you see OAA helping you grow into the future where independent insurance agents are going?
Yeah, OAA has some forums and some resources available, and because it was easy for me to, like I said, I built an agency before, and I knew how to build a small agency back, and so I was able to do that quickly. But beyond that, it became new territory for me, and having multiple employees, and having a bigger business that I can't just manage as easily as what I did before. So there's lots of good resources, and other agents to talk to, um, and through OAA to help me kind of see where the next steps are as I try to continue to grow.
What advice would you give someone who is a current captive agent or a captive producer that's looking to start their own independent insurance agency?
Well, so the captive channels are a good way to get training and learn the business. Um, and so it would be difficult to come in and just start an independent agency without prior experience. It would be really tough, because there's just it's just more involved, rather than having the captive agents. The captive company will train you on their products, and and so you just need to, you're limited in what you can offer, but it helps you to be able to understand the product. And then from that point, after you've done that for a while, then you understand how the policies work, and then you can makes it easier to be able to transition into something else. So it's good training, and the commissions are low, but if you're like me, you don't realize that at the time when you're there. You know, you don't know what's on the other side. You don't know what you don't know, I think someone said. But um, but yeah, once you learn the business, um, you know, you're you're definitely going to be better off as an independent.
Would you recommend them to use OAA to go independent, and why?
Yeah, so the main thing about OAA is to be able to have an aggregator to get you contracts where because you've got to produce just like you did for your captive. You want to produce for each company that you represent. But with OAA, there's not as much pressure. OAA kind of protects your contract. If you have a down year with one company and you don't write as much, you're probably not going to lose that contract. OA can protect you from that, and help you find the companies that you need as you grow. Um, been good about when I'm ready for another company. I can go to OA and ask for that company, and usually get it pretty quickly. So um, just um, just being able to offer more, without the quotas, I would say, has been the best thing.
What about the profit sharing side of
Yeah, I
things?
was about to say profit sharing. So being able to get the profit sharing without having the production and the quotas, and being able to get to a certain level with each company and still being able to qualify for the profit sharing. So that's the other part of it that goes with it, with getting those companies, is also being able to get the profit sharing.
I know a lot of times when we're first talking to agents, prospective agents, and that kind of thing, they say that guaranteed PMSF sounds too good to be true. So I'm going to ask you, Ronnie, is it real? Is that guaranteed quarterly profit sharing? Is it real?
It's real. Yeah, in my captive company, I really didn't know what profit sharing was. There was always some hurdle or some hoop to jump through to get profit sharing. They always found a way to make sure, even though I was profitable, in most years, there somehow I never got that. So I actually, after a while, you stop playing their games because well, you didn't write 3 life policies last November, so you can't get profit sharing, or you didn't do this, or you didn't sell enough of this product um, in that last quarter, or always some reason why you didn't get profit sharing. And I actually stopped paying attention to profit sharing there because I realized that it was a rigged game that I wasn't going to win. But so that is nice, with OAA, that it's nice profit sharing, and without all the nonsense of the games and the hoops to jump through.
Yeah, that's a big factor for a lot of our members, is that quarterly profit sharing, as well as the year-end local and national, which, the national is something that nobody could get on their own, without being a part of the OAA SIA organization. So that's always good to know that. And thank you for sharing that information. Is there anything that you would like to add today that you think that's important for our viewers and listeners?
No, we've pretty well covered it. Um, you know, leaving the captive channels and coming to OAA has been great. Uh, it's you know it's exceeded my expectations of how quickly I was able to grow and expand, and not have the big brother of the captive company looking over my shoulder all the time, asking why I didn't sell more of their overpriced product. So it's been great.
Well, I appreciate your time again today, and we'll look forward to speaking with you more in the future on future podcasts.
Okay, thanks, LaDonna.
Thank you, Ronnie.